skin. If we're behind, then never mind. We'll fight and win, for we're from Tigerland. We never weaken till the final siren's gone. Like the tiger of old, we're strong and we're bold, for we're from Tiger. Yellow and black, we're from Tigerland.
Hello and welcome to the post-match podcast, where we talk all things important and those things not so important as well from the wild week that was around the sporting globe. In case you hadn't heard, there's a certain bunch of fellows that flew high with fighting fury this weekend. Don't adjust your television sets, the Tigers have won the premiership. Looks like we'll finally have to come up with a new set of jokes. More grand final news as well, as the victorious Victorians continued their rampant run as a storm was a-brewing overhead at everyone's favourite stadium, ANZ. Also in Ramble, Barcelona slammed their doors shut and played in front of a Gold Coast United-sized crowd. And is it the timing of coaching announcements are Tony Popovich, as the Wanderers were dealt a huge blow on the eve of the A-League. All this and more in a special edition show featuring a grand final review that doesn't have us dancing awkwardly on a stage like a bunch of idiots. I am Brodie and joining me for our recap of a sensationally huge week of sports is my co-host, a mostly masterful maestro of mayhem, a maybe malicious Melburnian, a Mayman of mischievous matitude who always makes it matter. It's Matthew Evans.
Thank you, Brodie. Thank you for that really kind introduction.
I reckon that's my best one yet.
I think that was quite good, and I'm here with the never laborious but always glorious Brodie Calvin, all the way from Narre Warren South. I had to put something in there because I was lacking a bit with my intros.
I like that.
Brodie, this is why Brodie is...
Can you define laborious for me?
I don't know, but it's boring, probably. I'll tell you what, with laborious, you could describe laborious as probably Tex Walker's grand final speech.
Oh, yeah.
Post-match. We'll get to that in a second. We'll get through the grand final, but Brodie, thank you for coming all the way here. We're in an interesting setup now. Every show we seem to have a different backdrop. Brodie, as you can see there, he's matching. I'm just going with the Melbourne Storm, obviously, today.
Yeah, I thought we were colour coordinating and matching ourselves, but apparently I've been lied to.
We'll do that in the future, but... Of course, what we need to get into, and what we were all interested about, was, of course, the AFL Grand Final. Brodie, what a spectacular game. And I must say, before we get into it, I did say this on the program, the first ever episode, that I said, if Richmond beat Geelong in the qualifying final, they will win the premiership. Mark my words, and what has happened, Brodie? They've done so. But more importantly, congratulations to the Tigers.
Yeah, I don't know if calling it an outstanding game is necessarily the right term for it. It was another one of these...
for the Tigers.
Another one-sided kind of uncompetitive finals match, which I don't think anyone really expected going into it. Or, they were expecting it. I think that most were expecting it to go the other way. It was quite a finals upset, really.
Yeah, because there was a couple of interesting observations that... There wasn't really... It's not a really memorable grand final in that nothing really stood out. You had... what it was that won it for Richmond was the manic pressure. Their pressure was really tenacious.
Yeah.
And it was probably... It wasn't a single mark or it wasn't a signature run down the wing. It was just manic team pressure from the Tigers.
I had a chat to my brother, who's a Richmond fan, that was lucky enough to be at the game on Saturday, and he said a pretty similar thing. I asked him what the moment was where the realisation set in that he was going to watch his team win a premiership. And he said the same thing, that it wasn't exactly one moment that made him realise it. It was just the slow building of like, oh crap, it's actually happening. And it really was. It was a match that built it. It was a match that was made of little moments of manic tackling and pressure, great marks here or there, and great defensive efforts from players like Alex Rance. This was, if Damien Hardwick is an artist of a coach, this is his masterpiece. He really executed his game plan he's been building all year to perfection, and they ran Adelaide all over the park. It was shocking.
It's so incredible what Richmond have done over the space of 12 months, because not only has it been Damien Hardwick, I reckon it's been Brendan Gale, and Peggy O'Neill for sticking
Neil
fat
Baum.
Because I think Brendan Gale, Neil Baum was important in getting Nankervis, Prestia, and Caddy, and getting the recruiting right, and and allowing Brett Delidio to leave, and allowing Ty Vickery to leave, if you can call that allowing to leave. But Brendan Gale, despite this challenge from the Focus group, which I believe you saw a member of.
The Focus on Footy group. I was standing. I believe his name is Philip something. He's got a funny little bob haircut and a bit of a Hitler mustache thing going on.
Geez.
But it's an apt description. Yeah. But I was standing directly across from him at the grand final parade. He tucked his tail between his legs and decided to focus on the grand final parade for a day.
Good on him
in the front row. Yeah, that's what I said. Good on him.
For showing his face.
He
and his 70s haircut.
I never doubted his intentions. He clearly made his decisions with the love of the
He
football
seemed to
club
be
at
looking
heart.
at the camera, that photo you sent.
Yeah, I legit think he heard me talking about him. I started laughing, pointing out to my brother, "Oh, there's the Focus on Footy guy." I think he heard. So, apologies, Philip, if you're
Hopefully
listening.
Philip's not watching or listening. For that matter.
I think he's got other things to worry about. I'll make Philip.
But going back to like Brendan Gale, and we saw with about 10 minutes to go in the last quarter, the moment that they realised that was fantastic, and I think Brendan Gale deserves a lot of credit because he made a lot of departmental decisions to get Neil Baum to stick with Damien Hardwick and to make bold changes by getting rid of Mark Williams and Brendan Lade. So that was actually a really big change there. So it really has paid off.
Yeah, other of course, bringing Justin Lepich as well, who had a pretty torrid time with the Brisbane Lions. And
talk about 12
earn back
months.
some respect. Yeah, how about that?
These all guys can feature on, what's that show with Carl Stefanovic on Channel 9?
Today Show.
No, not the Today Show. What's that other
one?
Oh,
1 year from now. I remember the premise.
This time next year.
This time next year, is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, well, unfortunately, I haven't been watching. I'm sorry to say.
But anyway, the Richmond Tigers thoroughly deserved that. But it was an interesting game in the sense that the Adelaide Crows got off to a red hot start. They kicked the first two goals
of the game. Rory Sloane as well,
and Rory Sloane and Eddie Betts at the back. But what it started off. After that, really, Richmond seemed to settle a bit, and then they started to build back the momentum. And it was a really good game the first quarter. But then Richmond took the game by the scruff of the neck in the second quarter.
Yeah, just Adelaide, they really got going, as you said, and there was that moment for the second goal where Eddie Betts kind of stole the ball out the back and ran into an open goal scorer and kicked a goal. That's the moment where you think, right, it's not going to be Richmond's day. That's a Heath Shaw smother in the goal square type of moment. You think, well, that's it. It's been a fun ride. The Tigers aren't getting up. But the way they bounced back was incredible. And they just really put Adelaide to the sword. And they didn't look anything like the team we've seen during the season after quarter time. No. They went in at halftime about 10 points down. The third
Interesting,
quarter,
apparently there was some rumours or articles being written said they were fighting.
Yes, Tim Watson. I think Tim Watson was the one that said that based off something that Sean Greig had said. I think I'll reserve my judgment on what happened in the Adelaide Crows rooms until I've heard a little more. But, something's clearly gone wrong because they just didn't play like a team that wanted to win. They had no drive in that second half. There was
you think about some of the players that really needed to lift, and everyone's been pointing out
Taylor Walker.
Well, Taylor Walker, I think, lifted, but he didn't lift to what he should have.
He ended up kicking a couple of goals, but he missed some easy shots in the first half.
There was that, but I think the player that was the most disappointing was Josh Jenkins.
Josh Jenkins was missing.
Particularly the amount of smack talk he was talking before the Geelong-Adelaide prelim final. They got there, but they didn't arrive, really. None of them rocked up to play. The only players you could say that played well for Adelaide was clearly Matt Crouch, who had 37 disposals, which was 2 disposals behind.
His brother and Rory Sloane as well didn't have bad games.
Oh, and Rory Laird as well was a really good player for the Crows. And, there were players that showed signs at different times, but none of them really lifted at all. Yeah,
and I think that the real huge, glaringly obvious problem with Adelaide in that grand final was their forward line. And if you told me that was going to be the case last week, I would have slapped you upside of the head. It's just so inconceivable that this Adelaide forward line that's been so fantastic all year has been the talking point of the competition would just completely falter.
Yeah,
on the grandest stage of them all.
Yeah, because you don't remember where Tom Lynch was or Eddie. Eddie kicked a goal and that was it. And like Charlie Cameron,
that was my Norm Smith decision, by the way. I went with Eddie Betts. From last week, which is unfortunately ill-founded.
Because I think I said something different on the podcast, but then over the weekend on the morning of, I think changed my tip. Actually, I didn't change my tip. I thought Adelaide were going to win, but I was hoping that Richmond would win on the basis that I would be right. But I did say that Dusty would win the Norm Smith.
Yeah.
I changed that, I think, because as Dustin Martin, we'll lead on to Dustin Martin. The year he's had is so incredible. He's won the Brownlow medal. He's won the Norm Smith medal. He's the Gary Ayres medalist, and he's also, as of last night, the Richmond best and fairest, the Jack Dyer medalist is an incredible individual season for
Well,
Dusty.
statistically, it's the greatest season that any player has ever played. I mean...
That's how good he is.
Nobody's ever won a Brownlow or a Norman Smith at
But to
Premiership.
think that Richmond wanted to offload him only a matter of a few years ago.
Well, I think that wasn't a question of his quality. I think everyone who's ever seen Richmond play, even when he was an 18-year-old, knew that Dustin Martin was going to be one of the premier players in the competition.
Could have gone number one to Melbourne.
Could have gone number one.
Ahead of Tom Scully and Jack Trengrove, who neither are at Melbourne now, so...
Maybe less time spent talking about Scully and Trengrove for your mental health, the better. But
oh, yeah, probably. Thanks, Mark.
Anyone who could watch Dustin Martin, even as a young kid, knew how fantastic he was going to be. The question just was whether he was going to keep acting up, because he was acting up a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's a massive credit to Dustin Martin how well he's been able to mature over the past couple of years. Just really, not just to take his on-field game to the next level, but off-field. I mean, he's conducted himself excellently over the past week. You know, he clearly is not a media man.
Yeah.
He doesn't like talking to the media.
Well, I think that's good.
But he was so fantastic on Brownlow night. His speech was excellent. He managed to survive 20 minutes with Bruce McAvaney without dying, which was also quite exciting.
What did you make of the Brownlow? That was weird.
Brownlow's a long night, isn't it? Jesus.
That was over
night.
a week ago, actually. But
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was
and then as well, obviously, as the Norm Smith medalist, perhaps the shortest speech in Norm Smith history.
Oh, yeah.
And a premiership player now. He certainly had no shortage of media attention in the past week, and I think he's been so excellent. And it's a testament to how much he's matured in the past couple of years. So he's not the same player that Richmond tried to offload a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
You know, he was a dumb kid back then, and I think he's really. I think the decision Richmond made back when he was acting up is they got rid of one of his mates, Daniel Connors, I think was his name.
Daniel Connors, yeah.
Who was, I think, an older player at the club who was having a bit of a negative influence on Wayne Dusty. So they got rid of him, and I think that was instrumental as well. And
also the sort of the faith that they had, and obviously I think Trent Cotchin, the role he's played in mentoring Dusty. How good was
Trent Cotchin's a good boy, isn't he?
Isn't
he a well-behaved young man?
cheering Daniel Rioli around the ground when he couldn't walk. I reckon that's a moment that will be spoken about probably in books. It's not something that stands out from the grand final, but just the testament to Dusty, to Trent Cotchin's
the man of never moving hair, always high and tight, never ever wavering.
Yeah, it's just even when he's tackling, even in slow motion, it stays
perfectly still every time. I don't know how he does it.
Follically, aesthetically pleasing.
He is the champion, though.
No, he's a champion.
I think it's so great that he got to play as well. Obviously, there was question marks throughout the week about whether he was going to get a fine for that little incident with Dylan Shiel. But you know, it's always great to see a captain win a premiership, especially someone like Trent Cotchin, who I think has been an excellent appointment for Richmond.
Yeah.
He absolutely deserves it, and I thought that although he wasn't amongst Richmond's best, I thought on Saturday his performance in the prelim to get them there was enough. He's a champion and he's a superstar, and it was good to see him cheering around Daniel Rioli after the game, because I reckon he's in a bit of strife, young Daniel. I think after the adrenaline wore off, he went, "Oh crap, I've really hurt myself."
Yeah, I think he was off in the last.
Last 10 minutes of the game, maybe.
I think it was a bit earlier than that, because I think it was he had a deft touch, and I think he paddled the ball towards the goal square, and then. But I think it was with 20 minutes to go. But
I remember in the last quarter he did that cool little overhead kick when he was being surrounded by about 3 Adelaide players to get free. I think it was shortly after that he got injured.
Yeah.
But hey, if there's ever a time to get injured, it's in the last quarter as he
absolutely.
nearly 10 goals up.
And talk about the Riolis on Grand Final day again. He's obviously Maurice and Cyril as well.
And I thought Rioli was good as well. Doesn't get a lot of the ball sometimes.
Oh, but it's what he's like his cousin. Obviously, he's not cousin. He's
uncle, nephew.
Uncle.
It's something.
Something.
With Cyril. But he doesn't need a lot of the ball. And what he does is, I mean, we talk about it all the time, but it's so obvious. Their forward pressure is so fantastic. And I think where the game was won and lost is that Richmond doubled Adelaide's tackle count inside the forward 50. They just didn't let any Adelaide defenders breathe for even a single moment. You know, half a second after any of them got the ball, bang, pressure.
That's how football games are won. I mean, that's why Fremantle, when they in the year that they made the grand final, they out pressured Sydney, and Sydney play that style of game where it's a scrap.
And they have for years,
Yeah.
They've essentially been the pioneers of it from
exactly, and that's
in the modern era.
But what do you I saw he spoke on SEN, Mark Williams, who were talking about Choco Williams, former Port Adelaide coach and mentor to Damien Hardwick at Richmond. He was talking about Brett Deledio and how devastating.
I did read this morning.
Do you feel sorry for Brett Deledio? Because I do.
My suggestion was instead of Matthew Richardson, they should have had Brett Deledio represent the Premiership Cup to the Tigers.
Jeez. Wow.
But I mean, look, I do feel for Brett Deledio from a personal point of view. I mean, he moved purely to win a premiership. He didn't move to GWS for money or family reasons. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
He's just
there was a fair bit of money to.
I think he took a pay cut to GWS, didn't he? If I'm remembering correctly, I might have to look that up.
Might have to fact check.
But at the very least, I think his main motivation was to win a premiership. He's just backed the wrong horse, and But again, I think it's completely unreasonable to have expected Richmond to win a premiership at the end of last year, though.
But yeah,
I think it's just a testament to how well they've done. And I think
we need to, because I can't remember the deal exactly, because I would have thought Richmond would have had to get a lot in exchange for Deledio.
Well, my understanding with the Deledio deal essentially is influenced Caddy coming to Richmond. That deal wouldn't have happened otherwise. Yeah,
so you could argue, because by that time that Deledio was at Richmond, like Deledio wanted to go. Neil Barn was there by that point, surely. And, they were making these changes around this time. So, look, I really do feel, because Brett Deledio was a great servant of that club.
Yes,
very much so. It was very much one of the few reasons why Richmond supporters gave him hope. And he went to go for a premiership, but I do feel for someone like Brett Deledio, he's a good person, a good football person, and a very good player. And since his time at GWS, he's just had injury problems. And, that's sometimes the worst bit of luck you can have. And then you can have the best bit of luck where you're someone like Josh Caddy, Dion Prestia, and Toby Nankervis to come to a club like Richmond and then carry the side to win a premiership. It's been those sorts of changes that have really been the base for Richmond winning the premiership this year.
And I mean, on the topic of those changes, I mean, we look at their first-year players, not just the players they brought in Caddy, Nankervis and Prestia, but if we have a look at players like Jason Castagna, who's had his breakout year. We got
kicked a few important goals.
Jack Graham in the grand final kicked a few important
goals. How about
we got Danny Riola in his second year. I mean, it's really these kids who are new to the club who have been integrated so flawlessly. They were just so excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's just talk about Jack Graham. He's played his sixth game.
He was an Adelaide supporter 18 months ago.
18 months ago, but so 19 years of age, he's played 5 games or 6 games?
5 games, I believe.
5 games.
Fifth game in the grand final.
Sixth was in the grand final.
His fifth was in the grand final.
His fifth game was the grand final. His fourth game was the prelim.
Yeah.
And his third game was the qualifying final. I cannot believe that. That is astonishing.
Yeah, that's a hell of a start to a career, isn't it? I mean,
wow.
Poor old Matty Richardson sitting on the sidelines playing 350 games for the Tigers without a premiership, and Jack Graham comes in 5 and gets it done.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot believe that. That is such an impressive start, and hopefully...
Hey, well deserved. He played excellently in the grand final, kicked 3 important goals for the Tigers. I mean,
yeah, and he's got a very good kick.
Yeah, he was very good.
Because I was listening to Alan Richardson on AFL 360 last night, the last episode of AFL 360, and he was saying that he had a bit to do with they were having a look at Jack from a St Kilda point of view, and the thing that he noted was he had everything athletically, but it was his kicking that was really lacking. That's why that was his knock, as Alan Richardson put it.
Wouldn't have known that in the grand final. Yeah.
But obviously he's understood that's where his game needed to improve. And look how it's paid off. He's gone to Richmond. He's now obviously works through the VFL. Obviously that has to be a focus if you were you were initially knocked back because you were kicking.
Yeah.
And look at his kicking; it stood up on the biggest stages, particularly in front of 100,000 on grand final day, in front of 95,000 in the prelim, and in front of 90,000+ against Geelong.
I think that's another thing as well that's gone so right for the Tigers this season is how many things went right for them in the last 5 weeks of the year. I think in the last couple of games of the season they had Jacob Townsend come in. Came in and kicked kicked 7 goals in his first 2 games or something like
that's
that. It might have
incredible.
even been more, and then a good final series as well. And then, of course, you have Jack Graham who came in, just a couple of really good finds right on the eve of finals. They haven't had any injuries. Cochin got off from suspension. Brandon Ellis got off from suspension as well. That just everything really clicked, and they captured lightning in a bottle. And, man, Richmond won the premiership.
It's
Richmond won the premiership.
I spoke to a friend of mine, Anthony, who's he's been a diehard Richmond supporter, and he thought this day would never come.
No.
He was just...
It's inconceivable that this has happened.
Well, someone was saying... Someone wrote an opinion piece saying that this is actually a bad result for the AFL.
Oh,
Both
yeah, they can get stuffed, by the way. That's the worst article I've ever read in my life.
Oh, you know the article I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly the one.
Like, the fact is, it's like, this should never have happened because there's equalisation. Well, equalisation...
That's exactly what equalisation is for.
This was the purpose of it. But also, the fact is it completely discredits Richmond, who finished third on the ladder. Okay, the Bulldogs did something incredible and won a miracle premiership from 7th. It doesn't happen often, and that's fine.
It doesn't happen ever.
Yeah, it hasn't happened. It's unprecedented. But then Richmond, not only did they finish third, they also played teams that just did not deliver. So I suppose that their main knock was on the fact that the final series wasn't a great final series because you had one game decided under 6 goals. And I agree with that was probably not great.
It was disappointing, but this is
having said that,
the most competitive season that we've had in a long time.
Yeah, but what was most disappointing was that the sides that lost those finals games played terribly.
Yeah.
Like Geelong didn't play well when they played Richmond.
No.
GWS didn't play well against Adelaide in the qualifying finals. And then you get to the semi-finals, Sydney ran out of steam. Oh, sorry, that's the semis. Sydney ran out of steam.
Yeah.
And West Coast, obviously, we weren't going to beat the Giants. And then how it played out, Richmond... Oh, too good for GWS, and Adelaide were just all over Geelong.
Yeah, and I think that the final series, you can't argue, hasn't been disappointing. That it's been so uncompetitive, but I don't think that's a reflection on the fact that the teams are mismatched or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think it's just a case of bad luck more than anything that some of the
it
games
can't
haven't
be
quite
that.
worked out. To call this Richmond Premiership bad for football is the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. I think his argument was that they're not a Hawthorn or they're not a Geelong. It's like, great, I'd love to see Hawthorn win another 3 premierships in a row. How exciting was that?
Yeah.
Like,
This is what people want.
underdogs are good.
Because the thing is, what equalisation will achieve is that you never know who's going to win the premiership next year. And that's the whole point. You can't have... sides will be good enough if there's another great team... like another Brisbane Lions or another Geelong or another Hawthorn or the Collingwood sides or the Melbourne sides in the 60s and 50s, then we'll get to that era again. But in the meantime, it's good to we can speculate who might be there next year because there's no guarantee GWS. Does Essendon
just early, by the way, we'll do a AFL preview for the next season at some point, I'm sure. But I've got GWS slipping.
Well,
which is a very controversial.
Well, I don't disagree with that. Because you've got to the key thing for GWS, and it was the determining factor for them. Pretty much was the fitness of their list and their depth.
Yeah, but the other thing as well for GWS is I think that they're losing another 3 players in the off season, and they've been bleeding players for a little while now.
And
at a certain point, doesn't it have to come back to bite them? At a certain point.
But that's what the AFL was sort of setting up the Giants to do.
Yeah,
have a plethora
of
first round picks in their NAFL side, and then offset them to clubs and bring in experience.
You know how I have a sneaky feeling about? How I have climbing up the ladder, and it'll be music to your ears.
Oh,
might even just be the Demons next year. Might be their turn to break that drought. Who knows?
We need to break some droughts. There's 2 droughts we need to fix. Melbourne, beating North and making finals.
That's a bizarre stat that you guys haven't beat North Melbourne so long. North Melbourne are a horrible team.
And it's a team that I just cannot fathom losing to.
They're there.
I dislike North Melbourne.
It'll all be okay.
They're just annoying.
But that's next.
You see, they've got a women's team. They call the North Melbourne
the
Tassie.
Yeah.
They may as well relocate fully.
I'm.
Don't do a partial. Don't do like a soft Brexit.
Just as an aside. As an aside, I'm absolutely ropeable that Gold Coast got a women's team and Essendon did not.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Gold Coast don't even have a men's team.
Essendon has the facilities.
Yeah.
We're talking about grounds in women's foot. We might talk about the preview into that, but women's footy is going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to that next year.
What a year for women's sport.
But it has been a wonderful year.
Anyway,
let's wrap up.
Back to the Grand Final.
Let's wrap up because we are wrapping up the season of football, and it is incredible. It has been such an incredible year of footy.
Yeah.
We've had so many close results, and the first year of the AFL women's footy, record attendances, basically crapping all over the NRL. Oh, you should have seen some of the NRL fans commenting on some of the various posts about the attendances.
You say Phil Gould's going to have a coronary if he hears this.
Oh, I will actually. When we talk,
you're
about
ready to tee off on Phil Gould.
Oh,
I'm sure.
I'm about to tee off on a whole bunch of. We're signing it. We'll signpost that for potentially the worst of all time in the last 7 days, but. We will get to the NRL Grand Final, but we'll just finish off talking about the footy.
Yeah.
It's been a fantastic year, Brodie. Obviously, you'd be happy because Essendon, after finishing on the bottom of the ladder...
Yeah, not a bad year for the Bombers. Not a bad year for the Bombers.
I had an opportunity to speak to Andrew McGrath, the number one draft pick, for my feature article. And
bit of a hero to me, old Andy. You've been fantastic.
Yeah, well, we'll have to get him on the program.
Hey, if you can pull those strings.
Yeah, I think it was a bit pushy in terms of my article because he was in Canada, which is great. Having a great time.
In Canada.
And he was obviously back for the AFL duties for the grand final.
The motorcade and the parade. I did see him go past.
He's had an astonishing year, Andrew McGrath.
He has, and there's been some real good first year players this year, and I think you'll find a lot of them in the Tigers. They were just so outstanding in this grand final.
Well, there was a few other from other clubs as well that I thought were particularly good. I thought, we're looking at the Gold Coast, and the Gold Coast had a pretty bad year, but I thought Ben Ainsworth was pretty good.
Yeah.
He got a nomination late, but I actually thought he was pretty good early on. Could have got it. Powell Pepper. Ryan Burton is a second-year player, but he's a gun. He's
every Hawthorn player ever, every Hawthorn fan ever in the history of Sun tells me that Ryan Burton is the greatest thing to have ever happened in the history of mankind.
Jeez, wow.
It's a big thing.
Talk about not having a hair out of place when he's playing.
Oh, yes.
Very slick-looking man.
Very tight. Jaeger Amir is another type like that. But anyway, just before we move on from the grand final, I want to give major props. I think the real hero of Richmond's premiership has been Damien Hardwick, and he's the sort of person that doesn't like to make himself the hero. He's always very keen to put the spotlight on his players. And Mrs. Well,
that's where you gave credit.
I think
that's fantastic.
He's executed what is a pretty simple game plan just to perfection. He's put together a great group of guys to implement his strategies, and I think that with the exception of maybe Nathan Buckley, he's been one of the most scrutinised coaches in the AFL over the past decade. He's come under fire a lot, and he's had a lot of questions asked for him, and he's endured, and he's survived, and he's thrived.
In terms of consistently being scrutinised. Because you talk about the most scrutinised, obviously there was a lot of scrutiny on Brendan McCartney when he was coach of the Bulldogs. And then you had Mark Neeld, who was at Melbourne.
Yeah, but those guys didn't last very long, Hardwick's been there for 8 or 9 years now. And he's endured, and they've stuck with him, and they've showed him faith, and he's repaid it this final series and this year in spades. I think it's a massive credit to the system there at Richmond with Brendan Gale, Peggy O'Neill, Damien Hardwick. You could see how much it meant to them all. And the Tigers are... This is just the weirdest sentence I'm ever going to say. The Tigers are deserving premiers. They are. They were fantastic.
You might want to say that a bit closer. It just. But again, congratulations to the Tigers. They've thoroughly deserved, and it's just it caps off an incredible season. But it kicks off another silly season of football, and we might focus on some of the trade rumours and whatnot next week when we are about to ramp up into it, because that's when it gets all started, Brodie.
That's when the good.
That's when the likes of Damien Barrett and was it Sam McClure?
Yeah,
Sam McClure are up and about. Hutchie, Trade Radio, everyone's up and about. We'll touch on that next week. But what a year of AFL it has been for 2017. And whilst the football finishes and whilst the NRL finishes, when we'll get to that in a sec, is that the summer of sport starts, and we'll have a bit of cricket. We'll talk some cricket, but we're going to talk about the A-League, and we'll move into our soccer football discussion.
Yeah.
Brodie, the A-League's about to start. What do you think? What do you make of the brink of the A-League season?
Well, there's the big news during the week, of course. Western Sydney Wanderers dealt a major blow to their premiership aspirations as Tony Popovic takes up an offer in Turkey 5 days before the beginning of the season.
That's incredible.
That is absolute. I don't know if This is a real double-edged sword for me, and I've been thinking a lot about this. It's been really playing on my mind, it has.
Oh, it's been bothering Brodie.
It's shook me up real good, but I think that I understand him taking a job in Turkey, and I think that if he does well in what is a top European league, it'll be quite fantastic for coaches around Australia. It'll see them give more opportunities. Maybe my mind is failing me, but the only other coach I can think of, and only other Australian coach I can think of at the moment that's up in the European leagues is Harry Kewell down at Crawley Town in League 2, who's currently not doing so great. But the Turkish League is a big step up from League 2. This is a good get for an Australian coach, and I have no problem with him leaving, but this is 5 days before the start of the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
5 days before the start of the season. He's blindsided them here. He's done a number on them.
Yeah, and I think that's what really frustrates me about this. And I agree, because at the end of the day, we are talking about the development of the code in this country.
Yeah.
And it's something that Les Murray was pioneering, and what people in the grassroots of football in Australia want to develop so that we can participate and really go to a World Cup and really be expected to win.
Compete, get out of the group stage.
And part of that is you've got to have good technical coaching and a good foundation. And this is a great opportunity for Tony Popovich. And despite the timing, this is an opportunity that Australian football needs. But you are right. He has made, just off from the point of view, this is 5 days out from the A-League season. He's gone through the summer and has made significant changes to that.
Assembled his whole squad.
He has assembled a squad. He's got them playing cherry right. They were playing well through the FFA Cup, and this is what was incredibly frustrating, and it was the A-League will feel pretty hard done by, so will Western Sydney Wanderers fans. But, it would be just interesting to see how the Wanderers go. And I'm not sure who they're up against first of all. I think they've got Adelaide United at Spotless, don't they?
For the first game of the season.
I'm not sure.
Let me just take a look for you. They are up against Perth Glory at Spotless.
Oh, Spotless. Perth Glory.
Perth Glory.
I think they play Adelaide in the FFA Cup.
And that's a tough assignment, Perth Glory, as well. Yeah. Quite a decent side. I've got a few players that will be looking to step up this year, and Shane Lowry and Adam Taggart, I believe, is back at the club. Well, Diego Castro is a superstar and has been for a number of years in the A-League now. This is a real blow for the Western Sydney Wanderers. And Tony Popovich is someone as well. He was their manager right from the get-go, and he never won the grand final. It's something that I think is a shame that he never won a grand final, given how good he's been for the Wanderers. I mean, he won the Asian Champions League for them. And I think once time passes and the anger subsides a little bit, he's been such a fantastic servant.
Oh, he has.
For the
There's
club.
no doubt about that.
It's just such horrible timing. The worst timing you could ever possibly imagine.
But
this is Philip Coutinho handing in a transfer request 24 hours before Premier League season kickoff levels are bad.
And this is the manager of a football side.
The manager of a football side, yeah. So it's quite shocking, really.
It'd be interesting to see how we go, because he could do it at Graham Arnold.
I hope he does an excellent job in Turkey.
Oh, he needs to do well, because I think we need to have we need to start promoting some of our talent.
Yeah. I mean, Australian coaches performing overseas are quite few and far between, so I've got my fingers crossed for him, and hope he does well.
Yeah, because in terms of the national setup, and I'll just touch on this very briefly, because next week we go through the hard way of the World Cup qualifiers. We play Syria as the first legs in Malaysia.
Yes,
and then
Malaysia
on the 10th of October, and then obviously the second leg
back home in Sydney.
So we need someone. So hopefully Tony Popovich can develop so they can get to a point where he might be able to say, "Look, I've done really well here." Then take on the national job, because I think we're going to start having a look at a new national manager after.
Well, I think I said it a few weeks back, but I'm sticking by this quite bold claim. I don't think it'll be Tony Popovich. Whether Ange Postecoglou makes it to a World Cup, come World Cup time in 2018, I think that Graham Arnold will be the manager of the Socceroos. Feeling.
So you think you think Ange is going to be done before the World Cup?
I think he'll be done before the World Cup.
Presuming we make the World Cup.
That's presuming we make the World Cup. I think even if we do make it,
because if we don't make it, Graham Arnold won't be the answer, because they'll be looking for someone different. They would be looking for someone like Graham Arnold on the basis that
just the gut feeling, just the gut feeling. That's what I'm feeling in here, But we'll wait and see. But
what's Frank Farina doing? No,
Back to the the glory days of Oceano in 2002.
Oh yeah.
Frank Ferrini's got a 31-0 win under his belt. Thank you very much. Edge Postecoglou got that. I don't think so.
Do you think that would ever happen in world football again?
No, that's a once in a lifetime.
But yeah, going back to the what do you think? What do you going to think is going to happen? I mean, obviously the Wanderers are going to have an interesting first few weeks. Whether they decide to stick with an assist with the 2IC or they find another manager. I presume that they'll find another manager.
Yes,
but
Ante Milicic, I think, is the name that's been thrown around.
Yeah,
I
think that's been he's firming as the next manager.
Yeah,
but in terms of some of the other squads, who have you got your eyes set on?
Well, in terms of who I've got my eyes set on, I think that Central Coast Mariners have recruited quite well in the off-season. I don't know whether they'll be right up there, but I think that they will certainly improve on how they did last year. I'm also quite impressed by Sydney, who were great last year as well. They managed to retain Ninkovic, which is, the huge...
Yeah.
The huge get for them, really. And they've got Bobo as well up front as well from last season. Have managed to retain a lot of their stars, which I think is going to be really important for them. And I think that'll set them up pretty well for another title challenge. Melbourne Victory, of course. I think, looking at the Victory squad this season, I'm going to say we end up about fourth.
Yeah, because it's not as...
I look at ins and outs, and I can't say that we've improved our team from last season.
I don't think so.
There's still a glaring hole at left back. Like a huge hole at left back. I mean, I'm a big Lee Broxham fan, but I can't expect him to play at left back all season.
No.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. We'll let Georgescu go to Newcastle as well, who have signed a couple of decent players this season
I think
as well.
Newcastle got Roy Donovan.
I'm not sure. I'll look that up for you.
They might have.
They might very well do.
I'm pretty sure.
I've been forward.
Not sure.
I don't know.
But they do have Andrew Naboo.
Sure. They do have Cowburn on their team as well.
Oh, Cowburn.
Yeah.
There we go.
Reference.
Gun.
Don't know we're related.
But
that's who I'm looking at. I think that's Sydney.
And of course, arguably one of the bigger signings is obviously to Melbourne City, Ross McCormack from my club, Aston Villa, on loan to Melbourne City.
Tell me what you think of Ross McCormack, Matthew. Let's spend a couple of minutes on him.
He's under-delivered for Aston Villa, no doubt about that. He's admitted it. He's come out in the press saying that it's been a disaster for him at Villa, and from a Villa point of view, if he does go back to Villa, I hope he can find some form here in Australia, because whilst Aston Villa are doing well in the Championship at the moment, he could have been a player that would really help that, and he was the club captain of Fulham. He was the club captain of Leeds at some point, and the time he's had at Villa has been undesirable. But he could have lifted.
He was a good player at Leeds,
but he was slack at Villa. He didn't rock up to training. That's why Steve Bruce dropped him,
right?
And that's why he was loaned out to Nottingham towards after January in last season, and now he's been put on a loan as injury cover for Bruno Fornaroli. Not a bad replacement.
It's not a bad replacement.
Different type.
Fornaroli is a standout.
But McCormack, when Ross McCormack is playing at his best, he will be quite damaging.
So the question is, will he be playing at his best though, or
well, that's the thing. He's got to find that form, and the A-League he should be able to find it.
You'd think.
You have to think so, because the A-League at the moment is not Championship level.
No, not
it's the tier down. It's the A-League. If you compare it to the English system, it's not a no one. It's like the Premier League's, I reckon, the best competition in the world. Either that or La Liga.
From an evenness point of view, yes, but the best teams aren't as good as the best teams in Germany or Spain or Italy.
Yeah. So in terms, if you can compare where the A-League is in terms of the English system, the A-League is just under the Championship. We're probably at League One level, but is improving. It could get to a Championship, but it's an ultimate test for Ross McCormack. He's playing at a lower level, but this is where he can get his confidence up. It's like, I can do some of these things. I can have a bit of fun. Not go on a holiday, but he just needs to find form, because he's been pretty disappointing the last couple of seasons.
Live up to the lofty heights of another Melbourne City centre forward star signing from a few seasons ago, David
$20
Villa.
million Villa spent on.
It's a fair bit of pocket money, isn't it? 20 million.
Di Matteo, former Champions League boss of Chelsea.
Champions League winning manager Roberto Di Matteo. I reckon
he couldn't do it in the Championship.
Western Sydney Wanderers have an opening. Might be time to tap Roberto on the shoulder. Hello, buddy.
Hello.
Come on down. A little bit of a holiday in Blacktown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who wouldn't be about it?
I'd be interested to see, because I saw something on the Western Sydney Wanderers that they're developing these. I have a fascination for stadium development. I quite like it.
Right.
And it looks like they've you got the press with all the Premier and all the people digging the shovel. You know that with the hard hats and the high vis.
I like how they're digging holes. They got their shovels out, and they'll always have like a massive.
Yeah, and they've got a little paddle in them. But no, I think Ross McCormack. Hopefully, he can find form for Melbourne City. We're obviously Melbourne Victory men. We'll call our bias on that
until Dandenong come to the league in 2020.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Are they going to expand the competition at the end of
2019? I think is what they're looking at potentially. I'm very intrigued.
There's going to be so much expansion. In the
Hopefully,
next few years.
the fact that we
the
have
more sport, the better.
The fact that we have less teams in the A-League than we did 5 years ago is abhorrent. Just think about that for a second. Bring back my fury. But
I actually think
the Dandenong, Geelong, up
hopefully,
and about, South Sydney,
what I might say,
Brisbane Strikers.
There's a fair good, and obviously the South Melbourne who've done well in the FFA Cup. That might vote well for them.
Yeah.
But we'll see how we go. But the thing is, I hope the FFA, and this is a slight little drive-by to David Gallop and whoever's running it, you better get this right, because if you haven't learnt the lesson from what Sanzar did with Super Rugby and basically ruined the Western Fours.
You love Sanzar, don't you? One of your
I hate
favourites.
them. They're disgusting. If it wasn't for another world sporting organisation which was as equally as corrupt and whatnot, these guys would be the worst.
I love setting you off about
No, but
rugby
seriously, but in terms of like the A-League has gone backwards because, like you said, they had more teams 5 years ago than they do now. They need to expand the competition. That's part of why this game needs to...
It's time, Matthew. It's time.
But
we've only got the 10 for this season coming up, and it's going to be real competitive. If I had to put my money on someone now, I'm saying Sydney are going back to back.
Back to back.
But you see, the A-League is a lot more equal than you see
it's a pretty
any
long
other
season for 10 teams,
in the world.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is a pretty long. Play each other 3 times, which is pretty intense.
Yeah.
But if I had to put my money on someone, I would say that Sydney are going back to back. They've got the match with Melbourne coming up on Saturday night, which should be very exciting and tell us a lot about what we can expect from either side this season.
That's going to be a big blue to start off. A big blue, a premiership, a championship rematch in Melbourne at Etihad Stadium.
I'm so down. I'm so down. And of course, if Melbourne Victory win, it'll complete a total Victorian dominance for the weekend. Because, Matthew, what else happened this weekend? Are we going? Are we moving to the NRL just yet, or have we got
well, are we going to talk? Are we going to touch on Premier League? I think you don't want to talk about the Premier League.
Yes, I was trying to segue.
Well, we have to talk a bit about the Premier League.
We have to touch on it for a second. All right, we'll touch on it for a second.
You know, as Manchester, I haven't been paying attention to the Premier League, to be perfectly honest.
I have been. Liverpool,
because I know Villa is climbing up. They're now 8th in the Championship. They've now had 4 wins in a row.
That's not bad. That's pretty good, actually.
About time, Villa.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed.
Potato Face is getting up there.
So
let's go to the Premier League. Here we go.
Liverpool have had a disastrous month.
Keep talking. I was going to get my running sheet.
Absolutely. Liverpool they've been disastrous this past month, it's fair to say. We've been pretty lucky in that we haven't actually really lost too badly. We got knocked out of the League Cup, which is, I guess, the best competition to be knocked out of. We've had 2 frustrating draws in the Champions League. We've had frustrating draws in the Premier League. We've just, kind of gone level to Newcastle. There's some serious problems down in Anfield, and we've had one of our big problems at the moment is we're just not finishing our opportunities. I mean, plenty of focus has been put on Liverpool's defensive woes, and there are some real troubles in Liverpool's back 4, that is true. But we've had something like 160 shots in our past few games, and we've put away 3 or 4 goals. It's just... And I know that compared to the top teams, the Manchester City, Manchester Uniteds of the world put away about 22% of their shots, I think, is the stat. And Liverpool do about 10. I forget what the exact numbers are. I can look them up a little bit later if you'd like. But just a real lack of killer instinct up front. And it's tough because Liverpool's front 3 is pretty set in stone. You've got Roberto Firmino, Sadio Mane, and Mohamed Salah, who I don't think anyone will argue are quality players who really bring something to the team. They just need... There's just some serious... something lacking there with their finishing. Mohamed Salah is our top scorer for the season, and he has notoriously... horrible finishing in front of goal. He puts away some real...
He did miss a howler at some point in the season. But
he's missed a couple of howlers.
Do you think... Because Because obviously when they start the season, the transfer window is still open. Do you think that Liverpool were unsettled by their performance in the transfer window?
Look, I think that the big problem with Liverpool's transfer window was that whole Virgil van Dijk disastrous scenario. I think that otherwise they did a pretty decent job. They've increased their depth at left back with Andy Robertson.
But they still have defensive problems.
That's the thing. It's just that complete lack of a central defender. That was the only thing. And I think that the problem that comes with that as well is it was talked about so often in the media that it really shook up Dejan Lovren, Liverpool's current first choice centre half, a little bit as well. And he's a player that doesn't play well on low confidence, and his confidence is rock bottom at the moment. And I think all this talk about replacing him hasn't done him any good. You know, with some players, it might spur a competitive, all right, play for my spot, here we go.
When he's down, he's right down.
But when he's down, he is right down. You're exactly right. He was in his first season at Liverpool. He improved a lot, and now he's back down there again. I just don't know. I don't think, in terms of Liverpool's forward problems, I don't think that... even though we are hardly scoring them, we're creating so many opportunities.
Yeah, and that's the
frustrating. It's just the case you need to put them away.
Yeah, and that's the thing that Liverpool's lacking. And even though they've got the quality players, they're just lacking the quality finish.
And it'll be an interesting off-season.
And all the case, it's just a case of it would just be a case of time once they play a side where you start to net a few, and I think it would just be a matter of time with Liverpool. But
there's the other problem as well as we talk about their forward and their defence. But Liverpool are going to have a midfield rebuild come the end of the season that they've got to get ready for. They've got Naby Keita coming in from RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga, which is a great signing. But Emre Can's a done deal to Juventus. I'm pretty much calling it now.
Okay.
He's as good as gone. Felipe Coutinho is going to try and force a move to Barcelona again.
In January?
Not in January. They'll get to the end of the season. But the end of the season, I think he'll absolutely be out the door. It's a total revamp of their midfield.
So will you expect Liverpool to go hard for a central defender in January? Because they will desperately need one, won't they?
Yeah. If they do not push hard for a central defender in January, then Jurgen Klopp has really not done right by his supporters and his team. I'm a huge Jurgen Klopp fan. You know this, and I absolutely think he's the right man to leave Liverpool.
I think so too.
Onwards to a Premier League title that has been eluding them for so long. I think he is the man that would get us there, if there is a man that can do it. But he's a stubborn man.
Yeah.
And he had his mindset on one player in the off-season, and that was Virgil van Dijk. He didn't get it, and he didn't have a plan B. He needs to have more plan Bs, and you need to find someone else. Because I do not believe that there is nobody else there. Nobody else on the market that could have helped Liverpool's defence. They've been woeful this season.
Absolutely. So
but still, things haven't gone horribly wrong. We've been mostly drawing. We haven't lost too many.
Yeah.
We're still towards
at least
the
not
top.
playing bad enough to lose.
No, we're not playing bad enough to lose. We're getting close, but season's not over yet, and there's a long way to go.
A few other results. Manchester United, they just walked past Crystal Palace 4-0. Any other interesting results?
Crystal Palace now, 7 games into the season, no wins, no draws, 7 losses, no goals for, 17 goals against, and they've got Chelsea next week, Tottenham a couple of weeks after that. There's it's just gone disastrously for Crystal Palace. They've got Christian Benteke out now as well. Wilfried Zaha's been out from the start of the season. They've gone a long time without scoring, and I don't know when that goal comes. I just don't know when it comes.
Imagine that. They have set a record, haven't they?
I think it is. It's the longest time a team's gone without scoring in English top-flight history. That's not just the Premier League, that's the entire league.
They're destined for the championship, a return to the championship. The other thing, I think there wasn't, unless there was anything other. Man, West Ham finally got a win.
Yeah, City got up against Chelsea, which was a big match because Chelsea are probably the only other side that can keep the title out of Manchester hands this year.
Because they both Manchester sides are.
Yeah, they've just been so dominant. So a big early result there in the season as City got up against Chelsea. As for other results, nothing too interesting, I wouldn't have thought. Stoke got up against Southampton with a late goal from Peter Crouch, one of my all-time favourite player, Peter Crouch.
I saw something with a bit of the old robot, but there was someone, I think it was either BBC or someone was saying that is Crouch a sneaky
chance for the Ballon d'Or?
Well, England.
No.
They were saying Scott Sinclair, who's now playing at Celtic. From Manchester City on loan to Aston Villa.
I'm not sure about Scott Sinclair because
I don't think so.
I don't watch any Celtic football unless
Isn't
Tommy
the
Rodgers
Scottish Premier League.
scored a goal.
Scottish Premier League's not a great standard.
A number of years ago it was, but now it's not. Because once Rangers went into administration, got relegated down to the bottom tier, Celtic were the only team, and you can't really have a competitive league. There's only one team that's in it.
Exactly.
But I wouldn't have thought Peter Crouch was a chance for an England squad. I think that's possibly
But
a
he's
little
still
exaggerating. But he has, I think he is right up there for goals scored off the bench as a Premier League player. I think he's cracked the top 3 now,
There you go.
something like that. It's a nice little stat. But I think he's my favourite player in history, Peter Crouch. I've got a lot of love for the big man. Scored a
played
late
for a
goal
few
against
clubs, quite a
Southampton.
gem.
Watford drew level against West Brom with a late goal. And the other big result was Burnley getting a 1-0 win against Everton. Burnley are now ahead of Liverpool on the table, I believe. Yes, they are. Equal on points. They've only scored 7 goals from 7 games this season.
So
they're really scraping results.
They're in the what zone is that again? I forgot.
The Europa League zone, I believe, in 6th
Burnley.
place they would be.
Burnley in the.
Well, Fulham did it a number of years ago. There sometimes tends to be a team that reaches that sort of level every now and then that shocks people. But Burnley versus Everton is a real match of different fortunes. Everton are having a horror season under their manager Ronald Koeman at the moment. Some real problems. They made the.
I got heaps of money though.
There's some
go buy some
suggestions
players.
that it's time to move the manager on already, and I think, looking down the barrel of the camera, that's a ridiculous suggestion.
Oh, you heard it first. people.
I forget the pronunciation of the last name, whether it's Koeman or Koeman or something like that. So I'm going to call him Ronald. Has completely overhauled the spine of this team and brought in so many new signings that it does take them a little while to get going. So I don't think you can expect much better than 8th place at best this season. I think I got a little overexcited at the start of the year and called them 4th, but they're right towards the relegation zone at the moment. They'll improve.
Yep.
They will improve. They'll get there, but it's just a tough start for the season down in Everton. But to anyone down at Goodison Park, it's not time to press the panic button yet. Things are going to go okay.
Things will be alright, don't worry.
I promise you.
Don't worry.
I promise you they will all be alright.
Indeed. Before we move on to the NRL Grand Final review, I just wanted to point out, we did talk about it off the top in your introduction. Now, at the moment in Spain, they're having a referendum for the
independence vote in Catalonia.
So what that result, there was mass protest, and part of that protest was FC Barcelona, and what they did is that they locked the gates of the new
I think as well, not just beyond protesting. So I think we've got a rule about not talking politics at the dinner table in the podcast.
Sports and politics, but let's not talk about the politics. But I've seen some of the photos and how
Isn't it strange?
It is
I know,
so
it's
eerie
bizarre.
to see the new camp, the largest stadium in Spain, so empty.
Yeah, it's really quite strange.
I think Jared Piqué was saying he was in tears.
Yeah, and it was really quite strange. It's a strange time up there in Barcelona at the moment, and I think it was the right call. They wanted to postpone the game, and I think less a politically charged move that was, and more just to do with safety of the people out there on the streets, because.
Because that could have been.
There were some serious issues occurring on the streets, and there was some violence. And I think the less people you have out there trying to get into stadiums and partying on the streets, the better. So the right call made by Barcelona, I think. But it was just so strange to see the new camp without a soul. I saw a picture from a journalist during the week. A fan from Melbourne locked outside the gates of the new camp, bought his plane tickets to Barcelona 3 months ago so he could get there during the season to watch his hero Neymar play.
So it's absolutely gone to shit. Oh dear.
The double whammy. The double whammy. Neymar's gone, and he can't even get into the ground to watch him play.
I went to Bali and got my, my cheap Barcelona top, and that's got Neymar's number on it.
Oh right, does it?
Yeah.
Oh goodness me. But
and instead of that's some design. They've got aerated. Anyway, enough about Bali quality shirts. They're not bad.
it was bizarre. It was so strange to see Barcelona playing in front of an empty crowd. It's one of the real strange things.
But I mean, that happens in football.
It does.
It happens in the WWE as well. That's happened before. Wrestling in front of an
They've shut
empty.
the doors.
Yeah.
Raw after the Royal Rumble in 2015, I think it was. We had Raw cancelled. Nobody in the arena for the night. We got a Sunday night heat, the night of the Super Bowl at halftime. They had a match between The Rock and Mankind in front of an empty stadium. Back in 1999.
There you go. So we're not too unaware of empty stadiums.
We'll save some of that talk for our weekly WWE podcast next week.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what's on at the moment. Monday Night
Raw. We'll put Raw on in the background next week.
We should have done that. Why not?
Yeah.
Now,
anyway,
moving
on. Speaking about empty stadiums, let's talk about the NRL. There's the segue. Bang. How do you like that?
They did get 80,000 to the NRL Grand Final, which is not bad for two interstate teams.
No.
And the Melbourne Storm, the mighty Melbourne Storm.
Tell us a little bit about how the game went down on Sunday.
So I've written my notes here on 2 pieces of paper.
The big story that I know about is the fairy tale finish to the powerful trio of Cooper Cronk, Billy Slater, and Cameron Smith as their last game playing together as a unit, as Cooper Cronk faces retirement and Billy Slater makes the potential decision in the next
it's really interesting because Billy Slater was the Clive Churchill medalist, the best on ground in the NRL Grand Final, and he's left his in his Grand Final speech, he left his it to open, so he could play another year, Billy Slater. But Cooper Cronk is definitely, this is his last game for the Melbourne Storm. He played really well too, and the three of them, there was a pass. I think it led up to the try of I think Curtis Scott in the 67th minute, where basically Cameron Smith took the ball from dummy half, fed it out to Cooper Cronk, and put a short one into Billy Slater, and they sliced through it, and then Billy offloaded. Actually, it was Addo Carr's second try.
No,
actually, now that I think of it, but it was an interesting game. It was very interesting. I can't remember the player.
One-sided.
It was very one. It was actually an interesting first 10 minutes because it was quite even, except for the fact that one of their North Queensland Fury... Sorry. Shocking. Sorry, my apologies.
I've put it in your head. I've talked about the North Queensland Fury so much. It's just a muscle memory. The instinct kicks in. Fury.
I sincerely apologise.
How good was Robbie Fowler's try?
Oh, you wouldn't even know if they'd scored it. But anyway, the North Queensland Cowboys, one of their players broke their fibula in the first 3 minutes of the Grand Final, and it really
sad was the occasion a little bit, doesn't it, when you see a player go down with an injury?
But and he had good spirit when he was cheered off. He gave a thumbs up to the crowd. He's a great character. I've forgotten his name. I really do apologise for that. But it was really sad. And then the first, it was really interesting how the Storm got off the mark. They scored 3 tries in the first half. First one to Addo Carr, who ran from I think was 20 in the Storm's half to the try line, which is fantastic. I think the ref got in the way there. But the 2 North Queensland players ran into the referee rather than Addo Carr having nothing to do with it. So there's no block there. And then you had the second try to Kafusi, and then the third try to Billy Slater, and Cameron Smith converting them all. So at halftime, Melbourne Storm were leading 18-0. The Grand Finals heading their way. Second half, North Queensland played really well. They dominated the first 10 or 15 minutes of the second half, and they ended up scoring a try. Martin, I've forgotten his name. His first name's Martin. But they, and Ethan Lowe converted. So it was 18-6. So you thought, if North Queensland score another one, they will be okay. But then, and then Melbourne Storm just, what they tend to do all the time is they turn into a real grind. They're like the Sydney Swans in many ways. They're like that interstate side that really are tough. They grind it out. And what ended up happening is that they fatigued North Queensland because North Queensland, to get where they got in the Grand Final, was incredible because they just got into 8th spot.
Minus the Jonathan Thurston, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, and a few other of their key players.
Yeah.
So they had players coming back for the Grand Final, but they just weren't fit enough.
Yeah.
But Dale Finucane scored another try. Curtis Scott and Addo Carr with his double, and the Melbourne Storm were just clinical. We can talk about how good the Melbourne Storm are. Obviously, they lost last year's NRL Grand Final to another fairy tale story in the Cronulla Sharks, a premiership returning or going to the Shire for the first time. So the Melbourne Storm capped off a dominant season. They were 6 points clear. So I think that's 3 wins clear of second place. They were the minor premiers. They deserve to be the premiers. And it demonstrates how good Victoria is in terms of sport. The Victorians dominate sport. And
let's talk about this for a second, because I believe you've got someone to tee off on.
Oh yes,
some people to tee off on in regards to some Sid bias, some
the
Queensland bias.
It's not necessarily.
It's just an anti-Vic bias.
Everything's anti-Victoria. everyone in New South Wales.
We're not that bad, are we?
Oh, we're not that bad. We're fantastic. We're the best state we're the best city in the world.
Stick of your
let alone the country.
State
We're the best
racism,
state.
Matthew.
Well, state racism? They call us Mexicans.
Is that true?
They do.
See, I don't want this state racial appropriation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't want it. But the fact is,
No state
and a lot of
politics
people
at the
say
table.
Gary Lyon called it out in the qualifying final when Melbourne played Parramatta. Gary Lyon teed off at the commentary team, and after the grand final, Brendan Favola has had a crack at them. I'm having a crack at them too. They were so bitter after halftime. They were bored out of their minds. I was going to say something else, but I mean, it's so.
That's some elite company you're putting yourself in there with Gary Lyon and Brendan Favola.
Yeah,
It's a real trio of intellectual stimulation, isn't it?
Oh, I would. Yeah, I think that I've just put myself in a basket of intellects. But anyway, I mean,
We like the evolution.
all jokes aside, I mean, the commentary wasn't great. In terms of it was really they try to make it so boring.
Yeah.
Like you got to make it for
energy,
everyone.
don't you?
And there's Melbourne Storm fans that were still in Melbourne. There were a lot of them that travelled again to make up 80,000, along with North Queensland and neutral spectators. But you just suck it up, I reckon, because you can't help that the fact that Victoria is the most dominant state at the moment in terms of sport.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Start the Renegades into the Big Bash. All-Victorian Test 11 for the Ashes. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, by the way,
Proven
just
success.
a quick thing. My tip is that Cooper Cronk will retire.
I think, isn't that confirmed?
No, he's confirmed that he's leaving the Melbourne Storm.
Oh,
but
okay. I see.
it's
I
still
thought it- I thought it
open-ended
was
whether he'll play.
confirmed. I see.
I haven't seen that news. That might have been breaking throughout the.
No,
during our
I'm not
podcast.
sure. I just thought that I heard it a little while back.
But
I
no,
could
but
be wrong.
this was his last game for the Melbourne Storm. But there's questions whether or not because he's moving up to Sydney to be closer to his fiance in Tara Rushton.
Ah, I did not know that. There you go.
Oh, I knew that. There was I knew something. It's like Tara. I was watching. It was like he's leaving up for fan reasons. Like who's he? It's Tara Rushton. It's like Tara, you've just ruined another thing. You've just ruined Cooper Cronk and the Melbourne Storm legacy. But that is the last time
She
you
liked one of my tweets once, so she gets a thumbs up from me.
Okay. Oh, she gets a
Tick of
thumbs up from me too.
tick
But
of approval.
she's taken Cooper Cronk from the Melbourne Storm, and you've just shattered the most successful bromance in rugby league history. But anyway, that's fine.
Anyway.
But congratulations to Cooper Cronk, regardless of what he's done. Well, hopefully Billy Slater continues, but if he decides to retire, congratulations to you as well. And well done to the mighty Melbourne
go
Storm.
The Storm. Very nice. All about it. So
Yes.
that's a
Fantastic.
big weekend of grand finals, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's actually it was a
Everything
really
wrapping
nice
up.
weekend.
What am I supposed to do with myself now?
Yeah. Well, we got the A-League coming up.
Yes.
Bathurst this weekend.
I can't really get myself into the Bathurst. in
Well,
all honesty.
I only pay attention to the last couple of hours.
I
I must be honest.
It's the cars, right? This is the cars.
Yeah, the V8s.
Yeah.
It used to be Holden and Ford. Now they've got Nissan and.
So do you watch?
Actually,
do you watch
Sid-
it on the telly, or do you?
Well,
go?
I do watch it on the telly, and it used to be on Channel 7. Now it's on Channel 10 or
Yeah.
Foxtel, Simulcast, whatever they do now. But I actually, to be perfectly honest, I used to enjoy Bathurst when it was on, when it was just Holden and Ford, because there's this rivalry. Because I love the Holdens,
Right, I see.
but now they've added, and I think
I drive a Honda
Shout out
Jazz.
to-
Are there any Honda Jazzes on the track this year?
I don't think so.
Oh,
No, but one of
Oh,
my
goodness.
good friends, Tom Noski, his let me get this right. I think his cousin was a V8 driver,
There you
because
go.
at Bathurst you're in it's like the endurance race. So you've got like Craig Lowndes with a partner driver. So like he was one of those. I can't remember his name. I think it was Mark Noski. I can't remember. But anyway, so that was the extent of my interest in the V8s.
here's my suggestion, right? If you want to make Melbourne the true sporting hub of the world, we merge Bathurst and the Grand Final Parade into one singular event and send the players around in the V8s. How about that?
Wow.
You like that idea? Have them do a couple of laps.
That would be interesting.
I would like that very much so.
Whoever's in charge of the F1 and the AFL,
I think
can you get in contact with Brodie?
I have some ideas. You'll like them.
Yeah, they're
Trust
really
me.
good. He's got the greatest ideas, the best ideas. Believe me.
What do we got next on the agenda, Matthew?
Well, yeah, we've done our Bathurst. But if there are any motorheads or someone, if they want to engage with our podcast, let us know. And
send me an email. We'll have a chat.
Yeah, well, we can do. If you want to prepare a Bathurst rundown, and we can just read through it and just chuck it. But I suppose that the only other bit of sport that's been happening, and I'm not going to touch on this greatly because it's been disappointing, is that there was the conclusion of the ODI series.
Did you know, Matthew? Australia aren't that good overseas when it comes to cricket.
No surprise.
What a shock! I know. Who would have thought it?
They've lost the series to India before they play some gimmicky T20s before our Ashes preparation. So they lost the fifth ODI. They won the fourth ODI. So
was that the big score there for Dave Warner in that match?
Well, no, it was actually Aaron. Warner did score a bit, but
I
was also.
I was watching a match where Warner scored a ton.
So that was actually that might have been the fourth ODI. That was his 100th ODI. So he scored 100 in his 100th ODI.
Oh, nice.
Which is great. I think
Finch was in the 90s that match. I believe as well before being dismissed.
Yeah, I think it was. It was either the third or fourth ODI because Finch did score a 90 and then he went on to score he scored 100 in his return because he made a return. I think it was either the third or fourth ODI from a calf injury, and he's gone with an 122 and a 94, I think. And that's typical Aaron Finch. He always when he's reselected into the side, he plays well and then he'll peter off. But disappointing from the Australians in terms of cricket. So. Virat Kohli is obviously very excited.
Just another question, another politics-related question.
Politics.
What's more stable at the moment, the relationship between the US and North Korea or Australia's middle order?
I think that's pretty obvious, isn't it? It's the relationship between the United States and North Korea. They've got to seriously. That's a good point you raised because they've got to sort out the batting.
Yeah, what's the issue there? Where's it going so wrong?
With what North
Steve
Korea?
Smith had a bad series.
Yeah, I think the pay disputes had a bit to do with this.
Yeah, you think?
But anyway, the thing is that this hasn't been the ideal Ashes preparation. But talking about not having the ideal Ashes preparation, and I might bring this up. They are actually going to get my worst of all time for the last 7 days, and that's the English cricket team.
Oh yes,
particularly Ben Stokes.
I had a feeling we were going to end up with Betty today.
He's
not terrible.
He's
footage,
not touring.
Isn't it? He's in big trouble. Big trouble.
And he's completely derailed England's Ashes preparation
and his career, in a sense. I mean, this is a huge miss for him to be.
First of all, he basically cow punches someone, or just in a straight brawl.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have no idea of the context, but that was just a horrible bit of footage, wasn't it?
Looks bad. And then the footage that emerged 24 hours later of him mocking a disabled teenager.
He's had a bit of a bad run of it, hasn't he?
So there's that. He's now England. The England Cricket Board have suspended him from any, and Alex Hales for that matter as well, because he was there too, from any international selection. But then a few days later,
so
over the weekend,
him officially ruled out of the Ashes. Is that him?
Well, so at the moment, if he's not able to be selected. So at the moment, that means he's not playing in the Ashes. But then they also had the Bucks party for Joss Buttler, the wicket-keeper batsman. The England Cricket Board, I think it was Andrew Strauss, former England captain, who's now in charge of the
former opener.
Yep.
Remember Andrew Strauss, great player.
Yep. Oh, this is actually an interesting stat.
What's he done?
It's an interesting stat that I'll bring up to you after now that you've reminded me of it. But he's basically said to these guys, to the likes of Owen Morgan, Stephen Finn, and a few other England players that were on this Bucks party, not to go. Mm-hmm. And then what's happened is that it's created a bit of a funny story involving a sex toy. We'll just put that trigger there for the. But basically, it was also features a bit of a projectile towards a sex worker.
Aren't you glad that cricket's getting back to its roots? Just like the good old days.
Was that a pun intended?
Well, I mean,
anyway, that's what's happened. But jokes aside, this has really been a really bad week for England.
Yeah, big trouble for them, isn't it?
So we'll go back to it, but the worst of all time for the last 7 days for me will be Ben Stokes. Mm-hmm. Bit of a thing, but England, the Ashes.
I thought that Phil Gould would get the nod, but I think Ben Stokes is a very worthy competitor.
He's as bad as Phil Gould, but anyway, we better be careful because he's actually a powerful person at Channel 9.
Phil Gould.
Yeah, isn't he?
I have no idea.
I know he owns Penrith.
He does own
Panthers.
Penrith.
But I thought he had something to do with Channel 9.
Peter Hitchener offered me a tour of the Channel 9
Speaking
studios,
actually, we'll get to that. Actually, that's more important because the cricket. And I'll go back to the Ashes. But this man here, tell us about your new best friend.
Yeah, me and Peter Hitchener had a good conversation on Twitter. He's the man.
There you go. Peter Hitchener is the man.
We are the best buds now.
Oh, there we go. We're gonna give a shout
right
out
up into the sunset.
You can give your fair shout out to Peter Hitchener.
Peter, I'll catch you this weekend. Catch up for a coffee and a beer.
There you go. Look out for Brodie.
Look
out for Brodie's Instagram story. No doubt he will. You've been a bit active on the.
I have been a bit
active. So if you want to follow,
it's a great body cop movie, isn't it? Me and Peter Hitchener are out doing adventures and stuff.
Yeah, why not? He's actually quite an adventurous fellow.
Yeah.
He's a really nice guy.
Peter
Hitchener.
Well, I could attest to that. He was very nice to me.
Gave a few of my photos a bit of a like on Instagram.
What a champion! What a champion, man. Anyway, moving on from unrelated talk.
Yes. So good.
That was your worst of all time in the last 7 days. Shall we talk about our worst of all time in the last 7 days?
I will just touch on the Ashes first. I'm actually going to make a prediction now, and given the way that Australia has played, and given the preparation England is about to prepare itself for, everyone's building up for this home Ashes series.
Yeah.
And I reckon this is going to be an underwhelming Ashes series.
You don't think it'll be all that much?
Because our batting isn't doing anything. Something has to, unless something like vastly improves, both camps. Because England have the same problems.
Yeah.
Alistair Cook is getting towards the end of his career, and they're heavily relying on Joe Root. There's no depth in the batting.
Yeah.
And this is the stat I was talking to you about before. Since the Alistair Cook, Andrew Strauss opening partnership, which I think toured, the last one was in England. Since then, Alistair Cook has had something like 12 opening partners. And between these Ashes series, he's had 4 changes at the top of the
Michael
order.
Carberry for a little bit.
No, like between the 2013, the last Ashes in England and the upcoming Ashes.
And now.
So Michael Carberry was like that. That was
another era.
That's how
I didn't know that at all.
That's how unstable the batting is in England, and this is a real problem for Australia too, because obviously our problem is the middle order. So it will be this could be argued. It could be argued that the bowlers might be so important in this Ashes series, because you're going to hopefully Mitchell Starc and Josh Hazlewood, they were rested through these ODI series.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll be fit enough.
Yeah.
And obviously they've brought back Pat Cummins, because I think they're going to want to pick him for the Ashes. So it's going to be them most likely, and Nathan Lyon as the spinner.
Yeah.
Up against Stuart Broad, Jimmy Anderson, probably Jason Wood, possibly. So it's going to be won by the ball, I think, but it's going to be an underwhelming Ashes series in terms of the runs. In terms of the runs, because neither England or Australia are demonstrating they can bat.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe 2 wrongs make a right potentially, and if we get 2 rubbish teams come out, then we might get somewhat of a competitive.
Well, that's the thing, is like you never know.
Out
You can always get like an El Clasico situation where you have 2 really good sides playing a really good game, but then you can have 2 bad sides playing a good game.
Yeah.
As long as the sides are pretty equal going into the Ashes, which I think they are. There's no guarantee Australia will win the Ashes, but anyway, it should be interesting. But that's enough cricket. The only other cricket that's on is obviously the start of the JLT one-day domestic competition here in Australia. It's really like the JLT Cup.
I missed that.
Like whatever that stupid
I had no idea.
This ODI, this domestic one-day competition.
Yeah, domestic ODIs aren't exactly where it's.
Well, this is a gimmick competition now. It's really disappointing because I really like the one-day competition.
I thought they were still sponsored by Ryobi.
It was Ryobi, then between that was Matador, the barbecue.
Yes, that's right. No.
By the way, every company that we name, we hope we get a sponsorship for.
Yeah.
We'll chip in at least a burger or something.
Sending out some emails. Stuff that on the whole barbecue, baby. Here we go.
But it's now JLT. So JLT have
next time I'm grilling the Melbourne Demons.
Oh. Righto.
Anyway.
But JLT have got a bit of a monopoly on the irrelevant pre-season competitions. They got the cricket. Now they got the.
They've got the football as well. That's a good point, actually. Just wait till the JLT AFLX comes out. JLT International Rules Series.
Oh, I cannot believe that.
Anyway,
moving on. So a few games off the cricket. The Cricket Australia 11, which is like their junior. It was like the early GWS Giants.
Right.
They got a win against South Australia, which shocked everybody.
Nice.
And then ever since then, no one's been paying attention.
Well,
I know that Will Bukowski, a good friend of mine.
how's he done?
The Vics got off. They played Western Australia in the first JLT competition match at the Wacker,
Right.
and I think Western Australia got the Chocolates by I think 32 runs, and I think Will made 15 odd runs. I think he was.
Not bad.
Yes, he did okay, but it's a very inexperienced Victorian side, so they're trying to bring on the next generation of cricketers. So all the best to Will Bukowski. Moving on, that's all the cricket I've got, Brodie. I've nothing. Is there been any other sport that's been any vaguely?
I don't think I'm welcome around the Victorian cricket team anymore after I accidentally talked smack about Rob Quiney while he was standing right behind me at the cricket once. I think I've been shunned.
You won't be invited to the opening of the Junction Oval.
No.
Actually, I'll tell you what. The Junction Oval will be a very good facility once it's open.
There you go.
But yeah, well, what did you say about Bobby Quiney? Did he give you a clip around the ears?
No. I'd been talking about his stint in the Australian Test team.
Oh yes,
His ill-fated stint, where I think he scored 2 runs from 2 innings. I do like Rob Quiney.
Do you know that?
Just to clarify, Rob Quiney, excellent servant
Oh,
for Victorian
absolutely.
cricket over a long period of time. I do like Rob Quiney. But I had said that his stint in the Test team had been thoroughly underwhelming, not realising that the family in front of me was his wife and kids, and that he was going to pop down and say hello.
He was the victim of the rotation policy.
Yeah, he was a victim of that. Those are 2 words that I haven't.
But didn't Mickey Arthur also say that? And I think that 9 runs he made at the Gabba, he's like that is the best 9 runs he's ever seen.
That is the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever heard.
Oh, but you can see a fantastic 9. No, you can see it.
No, can you?
And it was a fantastic.
I don't know
9.
if you can see a fantastic.
No, because I think it was all in like an over where he like pull shot and then played some really good flashy shots and then all in the space of.
It's still 9.
But and that's I remember the Test quite well because at the stage of that I think Australia was trying to rush towards a series win just quite easily just sort out. But again, he was a victim of the rotation policy. But anyway, this Ashes will be underwhelming. We'll get to the more cricket as it develops.
I think she'll be right. She'll be right.
And
Moving
so
on from the
is
cricket.
there any other sport that's been on?
Well, let's think about it.
I do know that Australia and South Africa thrashed out another draw in the Rugby Union Championship. Yeah, that happened.
I haven't been following the Rugby Union.
27
I'm afraid
all
to say.
in South Africa.
I'm not sure I can think of anything that's been happening. It's just been a big old week of AFL and NRL as the grand finals and the seasons came to equally uncompetitive conclusions.
Everybody's getting Dustin Martin haircuts. That's the only other news. This is football news.
Could be time. What do you reckon? Things are looking a little bit like.
Kate
Is she getting one? Is she?
No, she's telling me to get one.
Yeah,
Or get a haircut.
That's a great idea.
Or get a haircut.
Excellent
Actually,
idea.
we'll leave that
I'm
to
100%
the.
behind
Let's
that.
leave this to the listener. If we
100
get what challenge shall we set, Brodus? If we get what 10 likes on this podcast.
No, if anyone watches, you can get it.
No. People do. I do stress that people do listen.
You haven't checked out the analytics? Having a little squiz?
I don't know. I just.
We'll take a look.
We'll have a look. But
anyway,
there's a
Dustin Martin
competition.
haircut is an excellent idea.
That's
I'm 100% behind.
If you want me to get a Dustin Martin haircut, just comment in the whatever section you find us in, and I'll do it. That's if you're paying attention.
Does it count if I do it? It doesn't count if I comment?
No. And Kate, that doesn't count if that's you either.
I think you'd suit that look quite well. The old Dusty.
I think Kate would disagree.
Keep
with
you a
that.
little rough around the edges. Gives you a little bit of a killer edge. I think it'd be good for you.
There we will see how
Nice.
we go. Yeah, a bit of the old Castlemaine.
Should we talk about our worst and best?
Yes.
Our worst and greatest.
Do you want to
of
start
last
off with the
7 days.
worst, or do you
Well,
want to start with
you've
the worst?
already teed off on your worst, I believe, with Ben Stokes.
Yeah, so Ben Stokes is mine. We'll start off with the worst. And
I
then
think
end
I've
with
already
the
talked about my worst of the worst of all time of the last 7 days, and I gave it to that journalist who talked about Richmond winning the premiership being bad for football.
Yep.
What a load of rubbish. I was so excited to see the underdogs get a win for a once. If you would rather see Geelong win 3 premierships in 6 years, or you'd rather see Hawthorn win 3 and 3.
Or if the Giants get their
stuffed.
if the Giants get their
Absolutely
shit
get stuffed.
together,
Yeah.
then you'll see them winning the next 4 premierships.
See, and that, where's
Do
the
people
fun, where's
do
the
people
fun
want?
in that?
Do you think that's good for the AFL? If of course they're trying to expand to a different market, but what about their traditional audience?
Oh, yeah. Where is the fun in teams winning premierships over and over? Dynasties are overrated.
Yeah.
I like the underdog every now and then.
Absolutely.
So
Now,
it's a
I would agree with that.
One of
Clip
these.
of the ears for that journalist. Disappointing.
Who's your greatest of all time in the last 7 days?
I'm
There's been a lot of heroes of the past week or so.
I'm gonna ask you first because I think you'll like where I'm going this when I finish mine off. So actually, bit of a plot twist. I'll ask you first.
Okay.
Who is your greatest of all time in the last 7 days?
Well, there's someone that I feel I do need to defend, and I think it's a little further than 7 days ago now. But we've had a small argument about this during the week.
Oh.
But I'm going to give some credit to the main man of presenting in Australian sports.
Oh.
Bruce McAvaney.
Bruce.
A true hero to me.
Bruce.
He's the man.
He's the man. What for? The Brownlow coverage.
His Brownlow coverage.
Oh, and everyone else has been saying that it was creepy and rubbish.
Here's the
Even
reason.
Dusty admitted
Here's
it.
the reason why. The Brownlow night is the worst night in the sporting calendar. It's boring and it's horrible and it sucks, right? It's just all around terrible.
I'll tell you who was good on Brownlow night in
Who's
terms
that?
of coverage. Daisy. I thought Daisy was good.
Yeah, Daisy Pierce. People are ripping into Daisy Pierce.
I would have thought your worst could have gone to whoever decided that Joe Danaher's mark was better than Jeremy. That was the great. Talk about the greatest response of all time in the last 7 days.
Do you know why that's not
Show
my
me
worst
out.
of all time?
Why?
Because it was me.
Oh, Brodie! Oh,
I
no.
voted.
Oh,
Come on, Joey.
I didn't
He's
vote.
the man. But anyway, I think that Bruce deserves some respect as a great man of Australian sporting coverage, true hero and a champion.
Oh.
It gave me it just made it a little more interesting because it's so dull. If Bruce comes on and says some little bit borderline strange things, at least it keeps me engaged
But
for a little
the
bit. So
thing
Bruce
is-
McAvaney, you are a champion.
The thing is, though, that coverage was criticised quite. There was a fair bit of criticism.
What are they expecting? It's the most boring event of the year. What are you supposed to do with it?
Oh, maybe
What
like
are you
maybe like
supposed to do with it?
maybe some stupid
Do
comedy
you want,
skit.
do you want
like halfway.
fireworks and streamers and no, it's
Oh, I'd like some.
it's boring. It's going to be boring. The only reason people weren't excited is because they were watching it sober. You need to get
Yeah.
hammered to watch the Brownlow. It's the only way.
But
So
yeah,
Bruce gets my thumbs up.
get your thumbs up. Well, he was going to get my worst because of that coverage.
I'm
but-
not going to let you.
But I'm going to act. But I gave it to Ben Stokes because obviously that happened in between that time, and that's just deplorable.
Yeah.
That's selfish. But
I
my
would've
greatest,
thought he
Brody, of all time in the last 7 days, now is actually going to you.
Yeah. What have I
This
done?
is going to Brodie Cowbin.
Yeah.
Now,
I'll take it. I don't think I've done
Now-
anything important.
as any, this is going to take a moment. This is so you can do your acceptance speech after I've done.
I'm happy
this,
to
but
listen in with this.
What we've
I like
done-
where this is going.
So, Brodie is the greatest of all time in the last 7 days for this reason and this reason only.
Yeah.
At this point in time, for any Deakin University student is at the end of submitting assignments and on the cusp of doing exams. Of course, we're journalism students, we're not doing exams. But regardless, we have lots of papers to do, lots of essays, lots of assignments. He's got he's got many interviews to do around this episode of what's the name again? It's not that anymore.
Post-match.
The post-match. We do have a new name. But anyway, so in amongst that, over the last few days, Brodie has been quite selfless. Quite selfless indeed. What he's been able to do is not only was he there to support his younger brother, who's a Richmond fan,
yes.
who enjoyed the festivities, he also sacrificed his sleep to complete his assignments, to queue up in the members at 4 something or ridiculous
We
hour
ended
in
up
the
in the
morning.
line at 3 a.m. in the morning.
3 a.m. in the
Yeah.
morning,
3
people.
a.m.
In a very chilly Yarra Park.
Yeah.
And once they arrived, as the gates opened at 8 o'clock, they said, "Thanks, Brodie. Off you go." Brodie...
Go watch it
that
home
is-
on Channel 7.
On Channel 7 with...
Put up with BT and Bruce for the day.
and ads as soon as they kicked the bloody goal. Oh, they could have got my worst, the Channel 7 coverage of the grand final. But anyway, my greatest of all time, of the last 7 days, goes to the ultimate
thank you.
unselfish act of queuing for the grand final and not even attending it. And shout out to all of those who did that. But Brodie, you are my greatest of all time for the
Thank
last
you.
7 days.
Well, it was quite my pleasure because as a 14-year-old, my younger brother has supported Richmond his entire life, and you won't find anyone more passionate. Back in 2010, I was on
Graphics are
a
off.
trip to the Gold Coast with school, And it was the same time that Richmond played Gold Coast up in Cairns in the infamous Carmichael Hunt after the siren game.
Yes.
I got a phone call from my
That
mother.
was a lie.
I got a phone call from my mother while I was away on a school trip asking me to talk to him to calm him down because he was at the stage where he'd been throwing remotes across the room out of anger.
Oh.
Carmichael Hunt kicking the goal.
There's
after
a
the
Richmond
siren.
supporter for you.
He has a Richmond supporter through and through.
Shout out to Noah.
So shout out to Noah, full of passion.
How did that happen?
He my dad's a casual Richmond supporter.
Oh, and your grandfather's a
And,
Richmond supporter.
No, my grandfather's the Essendon supporter. So that's
Oh,
where
no,
that's where he's a passionate Essendon man. So that's
Okay.
where my
All
that's
right.
where my
Okay.
my Essendon heritage lies. But Noah just
Who does
kinda
Mum
took
barrack
to
for?
Richmond. Mum's a Bomber as well.
Okay.
So, but Dad's the Richmond man, but just casually, and Noah just took to that and really grabbed it by the scruff of the neck.
Oh.
Long suffering. It's been a long. I mean, he's pretty much picked the worst 14 years in history to support the Tigers. They've been a bit rubbish, it's fair to say, over the past little while. There's been a lot of heartbreak. He's been to all those finals they've lost that have been in Melbourne.
Gee, something we haven't
He's
touched
watched
on.
them lose to Carlton.
How good was our intro to our podcast today?
Got
Got off to a really good start. Everyone was a bit surprised, but then everyone realised the lid is off. The
Tiger
train.
Tiger time.
Yes.
So he had a lovely day. I think he came home and he's quoted as saying that it's the greatest day of his life.
Oh.
The greatest day of his life.
It's
So,
actually like,
my
and
pleasure.
I wouldn't know. You might have some recollection, but
I have no memory of this. I've never watched Essendon win a final even.
But the thing is,
too young to
it's so good for Richmond as well. Like all jokes aside about how crazy they are and how
Long suffering.
they've been. When your side finally wins a grand final, it's just an amazing feeling. And
Not that we would know, but I hear it's quite nice.
I'd probably be as equally as elated if we got to the finals.
Oh man,
I was prepared, but I wasn't really. Anyway,
but no, thank you. That was very nice of you.
But well done, because that's seriously like to do that for your.
Yes, I will give credit to my other younger brother Jake as well. Who so we did a bit of shift work. He'd been in the city for a concert, so he stayed back in the city an extra couple of hours while we were making our way down to Richmond to hold a place even earlier in the line. So it's been a real team effort from the Cowburn lads this weekend. So we've got the job done.
Meanwhile, my effort on the weekend was downing some chicken wings.
They
were good. I just want to shout out to Paul Siri and
just a shout out to chicken wings.
Steve Pearce for bringing the chicken wings to grand final. I went to Bendigo for the grand final.
That is worth a shout out. Absolutely.
Oh, the chicken wings were amazing.
That sounds incredible.
Oh, that was the highlight. Chicken wings, a few drinks. Mission chili and lime corn chips. That was
in commemoration of Bulldogs.
I actually like that day better than Christmas.
Yeah, no, that's my
worth
grand final
celebrating.
day's my Christmas. It was a delightful time, and I had a great day.
Yeah.
Out amongst the Richmond supporters and
It's just a great weekend, like grand final. Like regardless, you got something to do. It was actually quite funny because you had we call them Paulie and Piercy. They had the window open. They were whilst they were watching the grand final, they were having a look at everyone walking outside on the streets. Like, oi, go back inside, watch the grand final. It was a great day. They're great value, those guys.
You're a big fan, but I was out at the shops the other day. We went down to Fountain Gate, which is near Narrow South, the Westfield Shopping Centre. And Noah completed he's now got the Richmond Premiership DVD, commemorative Mark Knight T-shirt, commemorative Mark Knight poster, commemorative post-game AFL record, the AFL record from the game, and commemorative Richmond Premier's 2017 flag.
Oh, wow.
As well as the Age and the Herald Sun from that day. So he's covered all his bases there. And then now when I say it out loud, I realise how overboard he's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. But they'll be up and about for next week.
Exactly.
So,
the Tiger Army is up and about. Everyone with their scarves and shirts. It's like, where were you guys?
Taking over the city.
As a passionate Richmond supporter for the last 72 hours, I can't tell you how proud I am. How proud I am of the boys.
Bandwagon. That's fantastic. Well,
truly on the bandwagon.
I think that's all we got time for. We'll conclude with the other premiers, the mighty Melbourne Storm. But in terms of next week, it's actually going to be, like we said, there's Bathurst. We might just touch on the winner. Bathurst, yeah, whatever.
You can take control of
but
that
there's plenty of sport. The A-League is happening. There will be a bit of cricket we can get into. But until next time, Brodie, is there anything else?
Can't wait for the Sutter trade period.
There we go.
Greatest time of the year.
Oh, silly season. We'll be talking more about silly season. But until next time, it's been great. We're actually, that's before I forget, there is something in the works. We are, as we all know, as many of you know, FIFA 18 has come and we can announce an exclusive, the post-match exclusive, that there will be a match on FIFA.
2 people
18.
playing FIFA on YouTube. It's never been done before.
Never been done before.
They're one of a kind. It's a world first.
Yes, so we look forward to seeing that. So we might that might happen in a couple of weeks, but and we also might have a bit of a crack at Pez as well. Why not?
My chosen
keep
home
those
turf.
those Pez.
That's me.
He's actually because that's actually good. He's made the transfer. That's the biggest transfer
the biggest transfer of the year
in the off season in terms of the world of football, soccer, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, what can I say?
But keep an eye out for that.
There's a
Just a bit of engagement there. Keep the viewers and listeners. But anyway, that's all we have time for. This will be available on YouTube. So until then, thank you very much, and we'll see you for episode 6.
Bye.
We live to play, we play to win. We try and try, we won't say die, we won't give in. We're number one, we'll hold the line. We won't step back, we'll just attack time after time. We're lightning fast, we'll drive like rain. We won't be beat, we won't retreat, ice in our veins. We are the storm from Melbourne town, we'll blow the others off the ground. We are the storm and we're not